The big question around us building this model is, well, fundamentally, is such a model in our markets going to be a business of the size of an REA, of an Immobilien Scout, of a Rightmove, eventually, building really sustainably profitable businesses with profit margins of up to 75%. And I think, again, iProperty has done a really good job here in Malaysia in proving this, but yet across Southeast Asia, there's still many markets that need to be proven in achieving that. I think there's two problems, or two questions actually, that are behind that question, whether it is possible eventually to build a business of that size, and whether this model is really a fit for those markets. And the first question there is there actually the same problem that needs to be solved? So is there the need for this problem? And fundamentally, the key problem that classifieds or real estate classifieds in online is solving is really transparency. And transparency was the first problem that was solved by that in the developed markets, but it's even much, much more significantly so a problem in the emerging markets. There is no, well, let's say, governmental information on property price development and what's available in the market, how it compares, how one property compares to another. The process of the purchase of properties is very much the same across the globe. The problems are very much the same. And not only the same, they are in Southeast Asia as compared to, for instance, Europe, but they're actually even more so a problem here than they are back in, for instance, Europe. The second problem, or the second question that is being asked then is, so if there's a problem, there's a market, but how big is that market? And I think it's quite an obvious one in just moving around in the space in Southeast Asia, in driving a taxi, and going from, well, looking outside of the hotel, and where money is going in those markets in this region. And I think it's very straightforward that in most of the countries, the number one or up to number 5 industry where money is being invested into is real estate. And if money is going into real estate and developing real estate, that means at the same time that there's money being invested in advertising this real estate. And that is eventually going to move online. When you do the math behind it, and we're looking now at what we're expecting for 2020 of a market, not only for the markets that Lamudi is currently present in, but the markets that are prospective markets for us with respect to emerging markets. You're looking at a close to 12 billion euros market in terms of advertisement spent in real estate. If you take only a less than 12% share as an assumption of this amount moving to online space, you get to around 1.4 billion euros in real estate online advertisement spent by the year 2020. Now, taking only a share of 10% for Lamudi, taking the multiple of lately traded or not anymore traded iProperty, you would already reach a 3 billion euro business. So, long story short, the model needs to be in the space given that the problems are there that needs to be solved. The market is huge. That means, obviously, Rocket Internet back in the days said, let's jump on this opportunity, and we call it Lamudi. And jumping on an opportunity as a Rocket Internet business means typically rolling out extremely quickly and then scaling within the business each individually. And that's what we've done. So within the course of around 12 months, we rolled out 9 markets, in the course of which we already managed not only supply leadership, so in terms of the number of listings in many of those markets, but even on the demand side, in terms of the user traffic that we drive to the platforms. In Bangladesh, within 6 months of operations. In the Philippines, organically, within 14 months of operations. And that is very much driven not only by our approach, which I'll talk about in a second, but very much by the people that are behind it. And not only the people that sit in Berlin, but very much the people that are driving in the connection with the market in a sense of clients, in a sense of users locally. And I think that is really where we differentiate ourselves from the competition or from pretty much any other player in the world, that is matching central approach and central added value with best local execution. And what I mean with that is that in Berlin, our office with around 70 people, we're building top IT, we're building very strong SEO, we're building a very high level of sophistication on our online marketing, not only with expertise of Lamudi, but having been supported by Rocket Internet, the framework agreements that we can reach through Rocket Internet with a Facebook, with a Google, that helps us scale both the product and the demand side very much across countries, and doing so not only in a very high level of sophistication, but in an economically smart way. However, there's only half of the story. The other half of the story is obviously in how we're building our supply side and the connection with the market. And I think that is very much key, and we will see whether this exact setup will still be the same in 3 years and 5 years from now. But it gives us the chance to scale very quickly while we give countries the tools and the power to really establish a strong company on the ground. Now that does show in terms of numbers, obviously, and then numbers, when we look at numbers, we typically look at first the supply side, then demand, and then already, even though we are early stage, how does that translate into monetization? On the supply side, and that really is the execution business that we are probably not really matched by any competitor, is going on the ground, building a team, building relationships, nurturing those relationships, having achieved more than 700,000 listings within 2 years of operations, working with more than 10,000 agents already. And that is working with agents on actually not only a tailor basis or such, but meeting our clients, really building a relationship based on which not only eventually we'll be able to generate revenues from, but we educate in ensuring that the agents would eventually improve the quality of the listings, improve the age of the listings in a sense that they take off outdated listings, and thereby eventually really increasing the user experience. In the end, the user experience is what is our focus in terms of both supply and demand and our product, because that eventually drives the value that we generate for our clients, which is the real estate agents and developers. The users being very much now acquired not only with a spending money approach, but our focus always having been very, very strongly on the free traffic side. So organic, and then moving more and more towards mobile, where we see really the future heading. In terms of organic, so SEO, really the story of our central approach plays into our numbers. And the growth that we achieved, I would doubt that any other player did achieve over this short time frame. And we're not only showing here strong 2,300% growth over Q1 14 versus Q1 16, but please go ahead and use the keywords. The top keywords in any of our markets, in the important cities and areas, we'll be on the first page, and we are often already on the actually first results. Shift towards on mobile is very much, we're looking at it on the lead generation side, not only on a traffic side or such, or let's say the number of downloads, but really how well does our mobile convert. And when you look at our lead generation, already today more than 50% of our leads are generated through mobile, where the shift within mobile is moving more and more towards app, and the app being thereby our focus also very much in Berlin, in driving user experience and really making sure that the user is getting hooked on our product, which then means is being basically used by the user, using the app throughout the entire process until the user has found the property that he or she has really been looking for. Now, we are 2.5 years old around. Nonetheless, we did move very quickly into monetization for 2 reasons, actually. For one reason, the obvious reason, where we want to prove to our investors that we can not only quickly grow on demand and supply, but also take advantage of that in terms of monetization and thereby prove our model. But also because it actually does create certain expectations by the market, in a sense that we are educating, we expect payment. That means at the same time the clients, so the supply side, that need to take steps forward in terms of quality, in terms of taking advantage of our product, which then in the end eventually also again means a better user experience, because our agents are really engaged because they're paying. The numbers behind it is, I think, equally impressive in terms of the growth. Obviously, we started at a very low base in 2014. We actually really started monetization towards the end of 2014 only. Since then, we've already gotten to more than 2,500 paying clients across the regions, which I think, given our early stages, is an impressive number. Nonetheless, obviously, the range towards the total number of active agents of ours is still large, and also the number of active agents in how big the company can get by the markets that we're targeting is huge. Now, when we compare ourselves with the competition, or benchmark ourselves against the competition actually in two different ways. One is, how do we compare against an iProperty or a Zoopla or any other player around the time that they've been at after 2.5 years back, and then on where we are today. And that picture I just want to show, not in a sense that iProperty has been in the same situation as we have been, or Zoopla has been, that we are in today, but more as in what we achieved over those 2.5 years, giving a projection of where we will be in maybe another 2 years from now. And when you look at the key KPIs, we do show a multiple of 2 to up to 10x across the key KPIs, comparing ourselves with two of those very successful players that already did a very, very, very successful exit. When you look at today's status, though, that is, of course, a different picture, and that is an important picture on where we stand on a competitive level against our competition. And when we look at Southeast Asia, we are covering 6 markets, but 6 markets does not reflect really how our strategy is evolving or where our capital is going into. We have a very clear focus on the Philippines here in Southeast Asia, building not only a number 1 player, but a very dominant number 1 player. And I'll give a little bit more details on the Philippines in 1 minute. But at the same time, we're managing to build very strong footprints and are growing our footprints in option markets, where every of our markets, we did already achieve a number 1 position, number 2 position, except for Indonesia, where I think the game is going to be a much longer game and competition is really heating up. Nonetheless, I think in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka, in Myanmar, in Bangladesh, we are in positions that the market might take time, but by the time the market is there, Lamudi is the one who's going to drive, driving the opportunity. The driving source, though, being the Philippines, the driving source in the sense of what's really driving our story. And our story is we're showing our success in one market while we have option markets on top, where everyone will understand the trajectory is very much the success of one market will be able to be replicated in multiple markets. I mean, look at the Philippines, which is really our showcase. I mean, you have on the left-hand side the SEO visibility measured by search metrics, and then we look at what is the monetization have come along in the meantime. In terms of SEO, organic, I think if you look at traffic, it's easy to just throw in money in a market and drive traffic. That does not show how good you are in execution, really. But SEO is something that not only execution is driving, but very much expertise is driving. And we did manage in the Philippines to achieve the number 1 position organically within 14 months on the SEO side, then acquired the number 3, which now gives us around 3x multiple against the number 2 player in the business, which is not just any, but is Property24, which is Naspers backed, and accordingly also comes in with expertise and execution. So we have done significantly better. We've done significantly better in terms of local execution, in driving supply side, in monetizing on our traffic. When you are around in the Philippines and you ask any of the real estate developers, the clear answer will be Lamudi is the player in the market to work with. And that is a story that we continue building and that we continue building dominance on. And that is really the story that I was going to tell. I think Lamudi is a player that is a significant footprint where we still focus a lot of our execution as much as our capital on key markets where we are proving that our model works, our approach works, that the opportunity to grow in further markets. That was it. Thank you very much.